Hey guys, it's Jimmy here, and today we're going to be taking our first look at D-Series Off-Road Driving Simulation. Now, this is a game that dropped on Steam today. It's been around for a while on its own website, but it's finally been released on Steam under the Early Access panel. And I wanted to just go through it a little bit, talk about it, give my first impressions, what I think it can be improved on, what I'm enjoying so far, and what I believe the general direction of the game is going to be. So let's get on with it, and I'm going to talk about the main draw to this game straight away, and that is the physics, because they're pretty damn good at this point, I've got to say. The strength, I think so far, is definitely the force feedback in the game. The amount of feel you get through the wheel is pretty insane. It's quite raw though, the feedback. You'll be driving along and it will want to rip the wheel out of your hands, which is sort of nice. And I've never really driven a car off-road before, so I can't vouch and say whether that's correct or not. But I imagine that driving a big old truck off-road without power steering, if you didn't have it, would be quite difficult on the old hands, and that's something that I felt on this. I actually had to end up turning the force feedback down just to save my wrist a little bit, because I'm a frail, weak old man. Underneath the wrist-shattering force feedback does lie a lot of detail, I must say. It's almost comparable to that sort of detail you get in R-Factor 2. You can feel what the wheels are doing a lot of the time, you can feel what the car is going to do when going into a corner, when sliding, and that allows you to sort of make the right counter steering, and means you don't end up doing all these sort of silly spins that you see in a lot of games that try and have a simulation based on dirt. I mean, let's take the most recent example. I guess it will be Dirt Rally. In that game there is feel in the wheel, but there's not a lot of it. It's not very detailed, whereas at the moment with this, it sort of puts dirt to shame. The strength of the physics definitely lie in the trophy trucks. There's two of them in this game. One of them is sort of meant as an arena truck, I think, two-wheel drive, 800 horsepower or so, a bit lighter than the other one, weighing in about 4,600 pounds, I think it is. And the other variant has a bit more horsepower, a lot heavier, a bit more bulky, sort of designed for going across the point to point in big stages as opposed to indoor circuit racing. And those are where the game shines. Those things are fantastic to drive. They're very decent, they're very interesting. My only nitpick with those is that with the rear-wheel drive version, it's very hard to get the car into any sort of sustainable slide. I know it's rear-wheel drive, so it's going to be a bit tricky, but it's to the point where you either spin or you just don't slide at all, and it's very difficult to get in between there. The four-wheel drive version though is solid. I'm really enjoying driving it at the moment. The physics are on a whole pretty good, but I think they're very much based on two vehicles, and they're the trophy trucks. If you drive anything outside of that, you can see there's sort of a big step down in how decent the physics are. I mean, let's talk about the fake WRC car, the Fiesta type thing. That I think would be able to handle bumps pretty well as a rally car, and even with soft suspension. If you're going fast around one of the circuits and you hit a bump, I mean just a normal bump, you will go flying off a circuit. You have no control over the thing. Steering is just a suggestion at that point when you hit a bump, and that's very frustrating. And I go in there and I change all the setup around, and bear in mind that the setup in this setup system in this game is super intuitive. You can do it when you're driving around, you can do it while driving if you want. One hand of the wheel, one hand of the mouse, changing settings. But even when doing that, even when experimenting, even when trying to make the springs as soft as possible to accommodate all the big bumps, I really had no way to make the car drivable for more, at pace anyway. The same can be said for the buggy cart truck things. I really forget the name of them. That really sounds very unprofessional to me. But basically, they're meant to be there as a sort of entry level to the big trucks, the big trophy trucks. They have smaller engines, they weigh a lot less, and just generally a lot slower. But they still have the same sort of problems the Fiesta does. I tried driving one of them around one of the inside inside track, and there's some footage of that as well. And I couldn't get the thing to stay in a straight line. Like the wheels at the front seemed to be broken from the get-go. I don't know why, which meant that as soon as I got onto the course, I couldn't turn at all, which was again very odd. So that's where the praise really ends for the D-Series, unfortunately. There are a lot of things in this game that need improvement at the moment, and the first thing you probably noticed if you're watching the video are the graphics. They are poor for a game that was brought out 10 years ago. They really are very basic in a lot of areas. I mean, look at some of the interiors of the vehicles. I think I've seen RSRBR mods look better than that, and if you've seen some of the RSRBR stuff that comes out, you appreciate what I mean, This, especially as a full-blown game, with that being stock content, I know this is about physics, this game, and that is their focus, but that just really isn't good enough. It looks really tacky, it takes you out of the immersion, and it's just difficult to see past, especially if you're looking to sell it beyond people who are in for that sim experience. The same can be said for the environment. Now, it actually really sort of reminds me of how Richard Burns' Rally looks in that sort of This is a basic template for you to drive around, focus on the physics, and that's what it feels like. A lot of the time you're driving around and things will pop in and out in the distance. That's really distracting. The overall texture quality is pretty low, and this game graphically really is something, it just leaves a lot to be desired, it really does. Something else that needs work in this game definitely are the sounds. I mean, I have been spoiled recently with games like Race Room Experience, Dirt, you know, some of the Project Cars vehicles sound pretty awesome as well. But in this, it all seems very placeholdery, and I guess that's a good thing because it does mean there are new sounds coming, but if this area was not to develop, then sounds would be one of the weaker aspects of this game. I mean, the trophy trucks are probably the best sounding things in the game, and even they have a very weird audio file that plays when you're coming off the throttle. It sounds completely out of place and really puts you off finding when the revs actually are when you're coming into a corner. From what I know so far, there are no multiplayer options at all. I think there is something that is being worked on in the future, as well as the DX11 graphics engine, which could see some of the issues I mentioned before sort of being cleared up. But you are really left to your own devices in this game. There's no sort of career mode, there is only time trials against yourself. I mean, you can click to race, there is like a race mode in the top left, which you can probably see in some of the footage that I've captured so far. But all that does is set you on a 5-lap race against the clock on your own. So I think this game, especially if it's focusing on trucks and that sort of close circuit racing, really needs to implement some sort of AI so you have someone to race against. You know, those trucks are famous for their really tight races with lots of contact, lots of dirty driving. That's what needs to be in the game if you're going to include the truck. They aren't made for hot lapping. Although it may seem as though I'm being negative towards D-Series, in terms of development, it's something that I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on. There are already features in place that allude to a bigger open world experience, features such as GPS for example, and that to me says that we might be ending up with some sort of massive open world map with point to point races, you know, where we're having to get from one point in the map to the other in the fastest time possible, similar to like the Dakar Rally or something like that. And it's something that I just love to see in a game. I mean, last game it did that to a decent standard with fuel, so to have that in a game with focus on physics and handling would make me, well, make me very excited indeed. Well, the question I'm sure to get, and I've already gotten so far, people who are friends of me on Steam seem to be playing this game, is it worth the money? Should I buy it now? Unless you're really a hardcore sim enthusiast, especially on the dirt side of things, then probably not, to be honest. This game still has a long way to go in terms of development. I think you can probably see that from the video and hear it from the audio and whatnot. I'm excited to see how it turns out, but at the moment the content just isn't there. I mean, you effectively had 3 cars. I mean, 2 of them are just variants of a different version of that same car. The tracks are, while there are 5 of them so far, there isn't much there. They're all sort of quite similar, to be honest. I feel that. And there just isn't enough single player content to bring you back, especially as there's no online at the moment. I mean, all you can really do in that game is sort of beat your own lap time, and that gets very boring after a while. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed my first look at D-Series. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to hit that like button. If you have any questions or comments you want to ask about the video, make sure to make those known below. And if you really enjoyed the video, then hit subscribe to be notified of future videos. Thanks again for watching guys, have an awesome day, and I'll catch you next time.